In the late 1980s, General Siyaad Barre launched a genocidal war against people in the north of his country. Along with it came detentions, torture, and the mass murder of civilians. Now, 25 years on, the true story behind those crimes is emerging. In this two-part investigation, we follow an extraordinary effort to gather evidence and bring one of the key perpetrators to justice.
Welcome to Somalia, regarded by many as one of the most dangerous places on earth. To the outside world, this is the epitome of a failed state, a haven for warlords, pirates and terrorists, whose ruthless activities have made it a living hell for its citizens. Yet generalities can be deceptive. This is actually Somaliland, a self-declared nation in the north of Somalia. Its stability belies the infamous reputation of the rest of the country. It is peaceful and thriving, and though its independence isn't recognized internationally, its capital, Hargeisa, is flourishing, boosted by funds from many Somalis abroad. But Somaliland also has its dark side. Within recent history, it witnessed atrocities that brought death and despair to the door of almost every family here. Now, as this would-be nation tries to define its future, some feel its harrowing past must also be re-examined to give closure to those who suffered and to call the perpetrators to account. This two-part investigation is about that process, about truth and justice, about a community coming to terms with horrifying events, and an extraordinary international effort to bring an alleged war criminal to trial.
We're giving you a chance now to respond to the allegations. I will not touch you. I will not touch you.
No comment. No comment of my life. That's it.
The story has its origins in one of the darkest periods of Somalia's history. In the late 1980s, the country's then dictator, General Siyaad Barre, viciously turned on his own people, especially those belonging mostly to the Ishaq clan in the north. Barre held them responsible for the actions of a rebel movement known as the Somalia National Movement, or SNM. His forces laid waste to what is now Somaliland. Many tens of thousands of civilians were killed, and 500,000 were driven into exile. Today, the survivors and families of victims are still sensitive to the agonies of that violent era. But some want the crimes of the past remembered and punished. Aziz Diria is one of them. A Somaliland activist, he lost many members of his own family to Barre's clan cleansing program. Seeing those responsible brought to justice has become his life's mission. It's why he's arranged a visit by a renowned Peruvian forensic archaeologist, Jose Pablo Barayba.
Yes, man, how are you doing? How are you, JB?
Such a long time.
Good, good. How's the trip?
It's a crucial step in what Aziz is finding to be an uphill struggle, to overcome the reluctance of many who are still not ready to deal with the loss of loved ones during the civil war 25 years ago.
Well, keep in mind that this is a war-torn country. We're still having a lot of issues, so we don't expect everything to be smooth. It's going to take a little time for people to forgive and forget, but I think we are close to that point.
Forgiveness can only start with acknowledgement.
Absolutely.
Mm-hmm. And this confrontation is what is needed in order for people to even consider forgiveness. Mm-hmm. And let people the opportunity to talk and discuss and cry and shout and bring up whatever they want to bring up once for all, in order for certain wounds to try to heal, for people to be, to live together in peace at the end. It's just a peace-building exercise, I think.
It is.
Jose Pablo is a war crimes investigator, and he's come here to help gather evidence of mass murder, killings that grew from 3 toxic historical roots. A divisive colonial legacy, Said Barre's murderous dictatorship, and the Cold War power game between the Soviet Union and the United States. Along with many other independence-era African leaders, Barry at first embraced socialism, and like them, he enjoyed the support of the Kremlin. But after he made the fatal mistake of invading neighboring Ethiopia in 1978, also a Soviet client, Barry's backers turned on him. As a former US ambassador told us, it left a power vacuum which was eagerly filled by the Americans.
So a lot of what we saw of Somalia in those days was an effort to reaffirm our relationship with the Somali government and, to put it bluntly, kind of buy off some of that interest that had shifted to the Soviet Union with some military assistance. It wasn't the biggest program in Africa, but it was one of the largest military assistance programs we had going on in sub-Saharan Africa at that time. We were in a bit of a game with each other, with Somalia at the center of it.
But Barry was more adept at playing one superpower off against another than he was at caring for his own people. By the early 1980s, his dictatorship had become deeply repressive and was being challenged by the SNM armed resistance in the north. The regime responded savagely, with little regard for civilian lives.
This is Malkadurdro mass grave site. It is about 1 mile square area. In 1988, I think it was late May, early June, the SNM came, attacked the government, defeated the government of Siad Barre, and the military took revenge, basically destroying the civilians and the city.
Barry ordered a devastating bombardment of Hargeisa by ground and air in scenes reminiscent of World War II. Eyewitnesses say thousands of civilians were rounded up and summarily executed. Tens of thousands more fled into exile. The campaign was pitiless and brazenly documented by the general's own men, who competed to prove devotion to their leader and be rewarded for it. But recording their own crimes would come back to haunt them. Somali academic Dr. Hussein Bulhan made an astonishing discovery in the dictator's archives.
I found a tape that was really a fifth-generation copy of a military documentary, raw data that the Siad Barre regime military had. And the officers and soldiers in Hargeisa were taping how they were destroying the city and causing all the massacre in order to show their commanders and their president in Mogadishu what a good job they were doing. Here is an instance where the guys were doing it are explaining and justifying. You don't even need, another proof. You see the action. You also see in this instance their own admission and declaration of what they are doing. These people were bombarding as if they were actually killing some kind of beasts that were there, not humans. And their language was as violent as their action. Kill, destroy, rape, kill all but the cause.
All right, there's still some remains. I believe there is more than 50,000 people that has been slaughtered by the Siad Barre government in this site. And what they did is they collected a lot of innocent civilians, including my father, my younger brother, my cousin, and killed here and buried here. Not buried, but actually dumped. It is very emotional for me because there is still some clothes and bones hanging on this wall. So what happened here, it's not something that we can forget easily. It is something that is very painful, that needs to be remembered, that needs to be part of our history.